His clothes were gone, every last stitch, but Chloe was still perfectly dressed. The stark contrast made his face burn. Chloe wrapped an arm around his back, pulling him closer, and whispered in his ear, her voice a low, amused hum. The privacy partition is up. The driver can't hear a thing, wouldn't dare to, anyway. What are you so shy about? He watched her, this woman who was always so cool and composed, as her movements beneath him grew more fierce, more demanding. A wave of pure adoration washed over him, and Liam Vance wrapped his arms around her, holding on tight. The pleasure was a rising tide, cresting, about to pull him under, when the shrill ring of his cell phone shattered the moment. To be interrupted like this, Chloe frowned, annoyed, but when she saw the caller ID, she answered. Liam's breath hitched as he glanced at the screen. It was her best friend, Jessica. Chloe, are you crazy? Chloe cut her off, her voice sharp and fluid in perfect Italian. Not convenient. Speak Italian. There was a deep inhale on the other end of the line, then a torrent of frustrated Italian. Did you really marry Julian Shun? What the hell are you thinking? You went blind saving him. And what did he do? He abandoned you at the lowest point in your life, ran off with some other woman, and nearly destroyed you. And now you're back together. The foreign words clicked in a place in Liam's mind, translating themselves automatically. As the meaning settled, a chilling cold seeped into his bones, plunging him into an icy abyss. Chloe, oblivious to the change in him, answered calmly. If I don't marry him, the Shun family will force him to marry some old woman. I can't bear to see him suffer like that. Then what about Liam? Jessica's voice was a furious hiss. He was the only one there for you when you were blind. He's been with you all these years, loved you so much he'd have torn his own heart out for you. All of us can see it. I'll find a way to hide it, Chloe said, her tone still maddeningly cool. He'll never know. How long can you hide it? A lifetime? Doesn't Liam want to marry you? The more she heard, the more agitated Chloe became. Just make sure the news that Julian and I got married stays locked down. Don't tell anyone. I'll get a fake marriage certificate made for Liam in a little while. Without waiting for another word from Jessica, she hung up. When she looked down, she tossed the phone aside and resumed her rhythm on top of him. Liam's body trembled uncontrollably. When they both finally climaxed and began to straighten their clothes, his lips parted, but before he could speak, her phone chimed again. It was the custom alert for a priority contact on her messaging app. Chloe glanced at it, then knocked on the partition. Stop the car. She turned to him. Liam, something urgent came up at the office. Can you get out here and grab a cab home? He said nothing, just gave a silent, numb nod and opened the door. The black Maybach shot away from the curb like a bolt of lightning, disappearing into the river of traffic. Liam stood on the sidewalk, staring blankly at the blur of headlights and taillights. He couldn't hold it back any longer. The tears came, hot and furious. No one knew that he'd learned Italian years ago, just to feel closer to Chloe. He had understood every single word. Every syllable echoed in his mind, sharp as 1,000 knives, stabbing deep into his heart. And with the death of his love, the dusty, sealed-off memories came rushing back. Chloe Jiang was the untouchable heiress, and he was the housekeeper's son. The first time he'd followed his mother into the Jiang's glittering Greenwich estate, he'd seen her through the French doors, bathed in sunlight, her fingers dancing elegantly over the keys of a grand piano. He had never heard music so beautiful, nor seen a girl so radiant. In that single instant, the name Chloe Jiang was etched onto his soul. He never told a soul about the girl hidden in his heart. It wasn't just because of the chasm between their social standing, but because he knew Chloe was in love with someone else. His name was Julian Shun, her childhood friend, the boy she grew up with. She never hid her affection for him, treating him like a precious treasure she had to protect at all costs. At 17, she'd thrown herself in front of a car to save him, a heroic act that had cost her her sight. But from that day on, Julian Shun vanished. He never set foot in the Jiang estate again, and was soon seen with a new girlfriend. The Jiangs had other children, other concerns. Chloe's parents, consumed by their business empire, had no time to care for their blind daughter. She was sent away to the old family home, forgotten and alone. It was Liam who requested a transfer, who stayed by her side, caring for her every need for 7 long years. When she was 23, he knelt outside the home of a world-renowned surgeon for 3 days and 3 nights, begging until the doctor finally agreed to perform the revolutionary surgery that restored Chloe's vision. The tarnished pearl shone once more, brighter than ever. Within a year, Chloe was back on top, the undisputed heir to the Jiang Corporation. He was the one who had stayed with her through the bleak winters and the lonely summers. He was the one who held her from dusk until dawn. He was the one who had guided her through 7 years of darkness. He was the one she kissed, the one she held, the one she made love to. It was all him. But he never imagined that the first thing she would do after reclaiming her power was marry the man who had abandoned her. All these years, he'd worked himself to the bone to keep up with her, to be worthy. But no matter what he achieved, Chloe's parents saw him as nothing more than the housekeeper's son. They tried to pay him off more than once. Chloe had always fought them for him, and he, not wanting to betray her faith, had never considered leaving. Until today, Liam didn't want to be near her anymore. He wiped the tears from his face, pulled out his phone, and dialed a number. "Mrs. Jiang," he said, his voice hollow. "I'll accept your offer. The $5 million. I'll leave Chloe forever. You finally come to your senses? Good. You're a housekeeper's son. How could you ever be worthy of the Jiang heir? Where are you? Come sign the papers now." Looking at the address that immediately popped up on his screen, Liam let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh and hailed a cab. At the cafe, Chloe's mother grilled him with questions. After he answered each one to her satisfaction, she slid a thick legal agreement across the table. "This is legally binding. Once you sign, there's no turning back. I'll wire half the money to your account upon signing. The other half will be transferred the day you leave the country. You are to ensure that Chloe never sees you again for the rest of your life. Understood?" Liam's eyelashes trembled as he looked at the astronomical sum listed in the penalty clause. He had no intention of ever seeing her again. Not in this life, not in the next. Without a moment's hesitation, he picked up the pen and signed his name with a clean, steady hand. Mrs. Jiang finally relaxed, tucking the agreement safely into her briefcase. She stood, delivering one last instruction. "I'm giving you 2 weeks. Change your name, move abroad. I don't care what you do. But you must find a way to disappear from her life permanently." "I understand, Mrs. Jiang. Don't worry." After watching her leave, Liam went home. Making sure Chloe never saw him again would be simple. The Jiang family had deep roots in government and military service. For 3 generations, a family pact had forbidden direct descendants from leaving the country permanently. If he emigrated, Chloe would never be able to follow. After spending half the night researching, he decided on Melbourne, Australia. Just as he made his decision, he picked up his phone to check the time and saw a notification for a new Instagram post. He tapped it open. It was a 9-photo grid from Julian Shun. The top 3 photos were selfies of Julian holding a bouquet of roses. The center 3 were of their marriage license. The bottom 3 were of their hands, fingers intertwined, wedding bands prominent. Liam knew Chloe would never have allowed Julian to post this if she wanted to keep it a secret, which meant Julian had posted it himself and, judging by the privacy setting, had made it visible only to Liam. A deliberate, targeted act of gloating. Liam calmly liked the post. As soon as he exited the app, a message from Chloe came through. "Liam, I have to go on a last-minute business trip. I won't be back for a few days." He typed back a simple okay and put the phone down to get ready for bed. The next morning, Liam was up early to start the immigration process. He paid for an expedited service, and the agent promised it would be done within 2 weeks. He breathed a small sigh of relief. In the car on the way back, he saw another post from Julian. This time, Chloe was in the picture, her back to the camera. They were holding hands, looking at a new apartment. The location tag read, "A penthouse on Central Park South." Just like yesterday, Liam liked the post. On the 3rd day, Liam resigned from his job. When he got home, carrying a box with his personal effects, he saw Julian's new post, a photo of him trying on a tuxedo, a diamond ring glittering on his ring finger. He liked the post, then buried himself under his covers. On the 4th day, he woke up to a new update. This time, the photo was of their wedding portrait, already hanging on the wall of their new home. Liam stared at it for a long time before his thumb automatically double-tapped the screen. Then he got up and went out for a farewell dinner with his friends. That evening, he returned with several empty boxes and systematically purged his life of Chloe. The gifts she'd given him, the matching toothbrush holders and coffee mugs, the photos they'd taken together. He threw every last thing into the trash. By the time he finished, it was late. He was about to turn off the lights when Chloe suddenly returned. She stopped short in the doorway, her brow furrowed as she took in the sparse room. "Why is so much stuff missing?" "I just didn't like it anymore," he lied smoothly. "Threw it out. We could buy new things." Chloe nodded, tossing her coat on the sofa. Her eyes fell on the box of his things from the office. "You quit your job?" Then she noticed the documents on the coffee table. "Why are your passport and birth certificate out?" "I was exhausted. Decided to take a break for a while," Liam explained, gathering the documents and putting them in his bag. "And I need these for some paperwork." He seemed so calm that Chloe didn't press further. She curled up against him, her voice soft. "I've been so busy lately. I'm sorry I haven't had time for you." Your birthday is in a couple of days. How about I take you to an auction tomorrow? You can pick out whatever you want. Liam didn't refuse. The next day, as soon as they were seated in the grand hall, Liam saw Julian. He swaggered over and took the empty seat right next to Chloe. Throughout the auction, Chloe kept her focus entirely on Liam, talking to him, never once glancing at the man beside her. When it was over, she didn't linger, pulling Liam straight downstairs. Before they left, Liam went to the restroom. When he came out, he saw Julian cornered in the stairwell by a group of vicious-looking socialites. Well, if it isn't Julian Shun, one of them sneered. Abandoned Chloe Jiang after she saved your life, and now your family's bankrupt. Wouldn't you call that karma? I heard your father's trying to marry you off to some fossilized old hag. Another chimed in. You're pretty enough. Why don't you come with us instead? We'll be sure to take very good care of you. Before she could finish her lewd suggestion, Chloe appeared at the top of the stairs, her face a mask of cold fury. She descended like a storm and shoved the women, sending them stumbling back. We're so sorry, Ms. Jiang. Please, we were just joking. Forgive us. Get out of my sight, Chloe snarled. If you ever show your faces near him again, you'll regret it. Terrified, the women scrambled away. A crowd of onlookers had gathered in the stairwell, their phones out. Ignoring their curious stares, Chloe helped Julian to his feet. Are you hurt? Julian's eyes welled up as he collapsed against her, his voice a pathetic whimper. I think I sprained my ankle. It hurts so much. Chloe's expression hardened. She supported him, pushing through the crowd to leave. In her haste to shield him, her arm shot out, shoving Liam, who was standing right beside her. He lost his balance and fell backward, the back of his head cracking hard against the sharp edge of a marble step. A gasp went through the crowd as blood began to bloom from the wound. He's bleeding. Someone call 911. Pain exploded in Liam's skull, and a cold sweat broke out over his body. Warm blood seeped through his fingers, dripping on his eyelashes, each drop feeling as heavy as lead. He watched Chloe walk away without a backward glance, a bitter taste filling his mouth. He remembered a time when he'd nicked his finger while chopping vegetables for her soup. She had hovered over him for half an hour, insisting on calling a doctor, terrified it might leave a scar. He told her she was overreacting, but she had just bent her head and kissed his hand. Liam, she had whispered, you are the most precious person to me. When you're hurt, it hurts me more. We're in a better place now. You don't have to do these things anymore. Your hands will wear the ring I give you one day, and I don't want any scars spoiling the view. Now, he was bleeding on the floor, and she acted as if he were invisible, and the ring she had promised him was on another man's hand. The ambulance took Liam to the hospital. He registered, saw a doctor, and picked up his prescriptions all by himself, not getting home until the dead of night. The pain in his head kept him awake, tossing and turning. Chloe never came home. The next morning, as he dragged his exhausted body out of bed to change his dressing, he saw Julian's new post. It was a video. Chloe was kneeling on the floor, gently massaging Julian's ankle and applying ointment. Liam watched it over and over, his eyes burning red, until he finally fell into a fitful sleep. He woke to darkness outside. The phone on his pillow was vibrating nonstop. He answered, and Chloe's voice came through, clipped and professional. The Riverview Lounge at the Lancaster Hotel, Suite 703. Come out. Liam hesitated for a moment before getting out of bed. He showered, dressed, and headed out. When he pushed open the door to the suite, the first person he saw was Julian. His eyes were red-rimmed, his expression pitiful, like a wronged rabbit. Chloe sat across from him, watching Liam, her face an unreadable mask of solemnity. The room was silent for a long, heavy moment before Liam finally broke it. Why did you call me here? Chloe sat up straighter, her hands clasped in the posture of a CEO about to deliver a verdict. Liam, those thugs yesterday, did you hire them to go after him? Liam froze. He instinctively glanced at Julian and caught the flicker of triumph in the other man's eyes. In an instant, he understood. This was all a setup. He let out a humorless laugh. No, I don't know them, and I have no interest in doing something like that. His denial did nothing to soften Chloe's expression. She looked down, her voice dangerously calm. Liam, the moment Julian chose to abandon me all those years ago, I let him go completely. You've been with me for 7 years. You should know who is in my heart now. The Shun family is in ruins. Anyone can kick them while they're down. But that person shouldn't be you. You don't need to go after him for my sake. Her words hit him like a physical blow. He remembered the nights she had cried herself to sleep, the desperate trips to find a doctor, the crushing silence after a misdiagnosis that said she would be blind for life. The golden girl of the Jiang family, losing her sight for a boy. All those hopeless days and nights, 7 years of his life, now dismissed with a few casual words, as if they had never happened. Finally, he thought of the marriage certificate, stamped with an official seal, bearing her name and Julian's. Tears welled in his eyes. Yes, we've been together for 7 years. How is it that only now I'm learning who is truly in your heart? At that, Chloe's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Liam shook his head, a bitter smile twisting his lips. It means I'm just a housekeeper's son. What power, what connections could I possibly have to hire a group like that to harass a man from a prominent family? Even though he laid it all out, plain as day, she still didn't believe him. Liam was tired, so tired. He took a deep breath and gave up. Since you don't believe me, just tell me. What do you want me to do? Chloe pressed her fingers to her temple. Apologize. Liam, you did something wrong. You need to say you're sorry. Just then, Julian, who had been playing the part of the victim perfectly, spoke up. An apology isn't necessary. If you're truly sorry, you could just drink these. He gestured to a tray of 24 full shot glasses on the table. Liam's gaze lifted to Chloe, waiting for her to intervene, to say something. But the light was dim, her expression shrouded in shadow. In the suffocating silence, Liam felt the air grow thin. He gasped for breath, his mind flashing back to another time. When he first moved into the old estate, Chloe, lost in the darkness of her new reality, drank to numb the pain. He worried about her health and tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. One night, drunk and bitter, she shoved several bottles of liquor in front of him. Now, even the housekeeper's son dares to lecture me, she'd sneered. Is this what they mean by a tiger being bullied by dogs when it's cornered? Fine, you drink all of this, and I'll listen to you. He had wanted to tell her that wasn't what he meant, that he wasn't lecturing her, he was worried about her. So, even knowing he was severely allergic to alcohol, he hadn't hesitated for a second. He picked up the bottle and started drinking. Minutes later, he was being rushed to the hospital. When he woke up, he found her sitting by his bed, her face grim. I was the one who was drunk, not you. You knew you were allergic. Why would you gamble with your life like that? Liam had given her a simple answer. Because I was worried about you, Ms. Jiang. Your eyes will get better, I know it. And even if they don't, I'll stay with you for the rest of my life. So please don't give up. Okay. From that day on, Chloe quit drinking. For years afterward, you couldn't find a single bottle of alcohol in the house. The memory brought a smile to Liam's face, but his eyes glistened with unshed tears. He didn't offer any more explanations. He bent down, picked up a small dish of wasabi from the table, and dumped the entire contents into one of the shot glasses, his voice laced with a terrifying finality. Just this? How can that possibly show my sincerity? Let me add a little something extra. Is that enough for you? Without waiting for an answer, he picked up the first glass and threw it back. Then another and another. The fiery, bitter liquid burned its way down his throat, searing his stomach and the heart it could never reach. He was on the 7th glass when Chloe finally broke. Enough, she screamed. Liam looked at the dozen or so glasses remaining and laughed, a ragged, broken sound. Enough? So, is my apology accepted? Have I pleased your beloved enough for one night? At that, Chloe shot to her feet and seized his wrist, her grip like iron. Her face, usually so placid, was now dark enough to drip poison. You know that's not what I mean. Liam, I told you, there's nothing between Julian and me anymore. My family already disapproves of you. If you do something this reckless, they'll use it as leverage. I'm just trying to protect you from being attacked, from being torn apart by gossip. She sounded so righteous, so reasonable. But Liam just laughed. The Jiang family didn't approve of him, the lowly housekeeper's son. Did she really think they would welcome Julian, the man who had repaid her love with betrayal? No matter the obstacles, if Julian asked, she would move heaven and earth. She had already married him, hadn't she? It was all just an excuse. He wasn't the one she loved enough to fight for. Liam didn't want to argue anymore. He yanked his arm free and turned to leave. He'd barely taken a step before his body gave out, and he collapsed, unconscious. Liam, a jolt of pure panic shot through Chloe. She lunged forward, gathering him into her arms, ready to run. But Julian grabbed her sleeve, his voice a tearful plea. Chloe, I feel dizzy. Chloe froze. For a split second, she hesitated. Then, she strode out of the room, calling over her shoulder as she left. I'm taking Liam to the hospital. Call your assistant to come get you. When Liam woke up, he was in a hospital bed. Chloe, who clearly hadn't slept, let out a breath of relief when she saw his eyes open. They looked at each other for a long moment, neither speaking. She poured him a glass of water, tucked his blanket in, and called the doctor in for a follow-up, patiently taking notes on all the instructions. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with calls from her office, which she dismissed one by one. Seeing her secretary hovering anxiously at the door, Liam finally spoke. You should go. I can take care of myself. You shouldn't be doing this anyway. Chloe's hand, which had been peeling an apple, stilled. I should be doing all of it, she said softly. Liam, have you forgotten? This is how you took care of me. A flicker of something passed through Liam's eyes. Back then, when her blindness had made her a pariah to her own family, he was the only one there. He had taught himself Braille, to read to her, sat with her during tutoring sessions, taken her out to feel the sun on her face, and cooked all her favorite foods. He had felt like he'd stolen the moon for himself, and its light had filled his once gray life. Those 7 years of darkness had been the brightest of his entire existence. But the moon was never his to keep, and there was no going back. That afternoon, a doctor took Liam for a series of tests. Half an hour later, a nurse was helping him back to his room. As they pushed the door open, he saw Chloe standing by the window, holding his phone, her brow furrowed in anger as she spoke to her mother. I've told you, Liam and I are in love. We love each other. I don't care about his background, and you can stop wasting your time. I'm going to marry him, and he is not going to leave me. Hearing the door, she glanced up at him. A second later, he heard Mrs. Zhang's confused voice through the phone speaker. What do you mean he's not going to leave you? Don't you know? Liam already accepted my offer to leave the country a few days ago. Liam staggered forward on weak legs and snatched the phone from her hand, ending the call. Chloe stared at him, stunned by his sudden, violent reaction. What's wrong? Seeing her confused expression, he knew she hadn't heard what her mother had said. He let out a silent breath of relief, looking away, forcing his voice to remain calm. Nothing. I just don't want you fighting with your family over me anymore. It was true that the Jiangs had been causing trouble for them constantly, and Chloe had fought with them several times. His explanation seemed to satisfy her. She didn't press it, instead asking about his test results. The doctor said it's nothing serious. I could be discharged. For the next few days, Chloe stayed home, spending all her time with Liam. But he wasn't the same. He no longer smiled and joked. He just sat in corners, staring into space, lost in thought. Chloe couldn't figure out why. She tried to cuddle with him, to coax him out of his mood, but he just stood up and went to the bedroom. I'm not feeling well. I'm going to lie down. Watching him walk away, Chloe was taken aback. She assumed he was still upset about the apology incident and decided to plan a surprise for him. On his birthday, she threw a lavish party. Out of respect for Chloe, most of the city's elite showed up. To his face, they were polite. But the moment she turned her back, they gathered in small, whispering cliques. If it wasn't for Chloe Jiang, I would never be caught dead at a housekeeper's son's birthday party. It's so degrading. I honestly don't see what she sees in him. He has that cheap, tacky air about him. It's suffocating. Chloe is just too loyal, I guess. If it were me, I'd have just paid him off. To actually marry him? That would be a disgrace to the Jiang name. Though he was the guest of honor, Liam stood alone, an island in a sea of contempt. The barely veiled insults and mocking laughter washed over him, and he felt a bone-deep weariness. If he wasn't so afraid of Chloe suspecting something, he wouldn't be here at all. The deliberate ostracism made every second an agony. At 7 o'clock, a murmur went through the ballroom. Every head turned toward the entrance, and the disdain on their faces melted away, replaced by fawning smiles. News travels fast in their circle. Everyone had heard about how Chloe had thrown down for Julian. So when they saw him now, they knew exactly what it meant. They rushed to suck up. Ms. Jiang, so that's where you disappeared to. You went to pick up Mr. Shun. So lovely to see your relationship is still so strong after all these years. Of course it is. They're childhood sweethearts, a true match. Just look at Mr. Shun's elegance. He and the divine Ms. Jiang are a perfect pair. Amid the sea of speculation, Liam watched Julian enter on Chloe's arm and felt a dawning, sickening realization. Julian was dressed in a stunning designer suit that highlighted his slender frame. His delicate, handsome face radiated the quiet confidence that only comes from a lifetime of wealth and privilege. Even standing next to the formidable Chloe, he didn't look the least bit out of place. Out of nowhere, Liam remembered a sketch Chloe had drawn after she regained her sight. A portrait of a man, his features indistinct. At the time, she'd said she was just doodling. He thought it was beautiful and didn't think much of it. But seeing Julian tonight, he knew exactly who was in that drawing. It wasn't a second chance. It was that she had never, ever forgotten. Liam lowered his eyes and turned to leave, but Julian's voice stopped him. Mr. Vance, I heard it's your birthday. I hope you don't mind me crashing. I even brought a gift. At his signal, an assistant brought forward a small, fluffy, pure white puppy on a leash. His name is Lucky. Isn't he adorable? As the puppy bounded toward him, Liam stumbled backward in shock, bumping into a table. The color drained from his face, his eyes wide with a primal fear. Please take it away. I don't like dogs. Chloe is Mr. Vance still angry with me about the other night, Julian said, his voice laced with faux concern. I should probably go. I don't want to spoil your evening. As he made a show of turning to leave, Chloe quickly grabbed his arm, then shot Liam a disapproving look. He's just being nice, Liam. I thought you loved animals. Just accept it. Seeing the clear annoyance in her eyes, Liam clenched his fists so hard his nails dug into his palms. He turned to her assistant. Zhao, it's a bit inconvenient for me right now. Could you hold the leash for me, please? A new wave of snickering went through the crowd. They muttered about how he was ungrateful and putting on airs. Chloe, assuming he was once again trying to embarrass Julian, gave him a cold look before leading Julian deeper into the party. The space around him quickly emptied, leaving Liam utterly alone. He poured a glass of water and drank it down, trying to calm his frantic heart. He used to love dogs. But 5 years ago, during a stormy, blacked-out night, Chloe had come down with a raging fever. He'd run out into the torrential rain to find a doctor. A neighbor's German shepherd had chased him down the street, tearing a chunk of flesh from his calf. He had gritted his teeth through the pain, brought the doctor back, and only after confirming Chloe was safe did he tend to his own wound. He'd been terrified of dogs ever since, but he never told her, not wanting to worry her. Even now, he could feel the scarred, uneven tissue through the fabric of his suit pants. The guests at the party were experts at sensing which way the wind blew. Seeing Chloe's attitude, they felt free to be openly dismissive of Liam. When it was time for the cake, they all gathered around Julian, acting as if it were his birthday. Chloe, her anger having subsided slightly, finally called Liam over to blow out the candles. He walked over silently. Just as he was about to make a wish, Julian let out a delighted gasp. Wow, what a coincidence. Mr. Vance, you and Lucky have the same birthday. Why don't we celebrate together? A wave of stifled laughter rippled through the onlookers. Seeing the open provocation in Julian's eyes, Liam felt his fingers dig deeper into his palms. He took a shallow breath, his voice dripping with ice. In that case, let the dog blow out the candles. You can all sing happy birthday to him. I wouldn't want to interrupt. When he actually turned to leave, a vein pulsed in Chloe's forehead. Liam, she hissed. This is your birthday party. What'll it look like if you just walk out? Liam ignored her and headed for the door. At the end of her rope, Chloe chased after him, grabbing his arm. She leaned in, whispering harshly in his ear. Behave. Everyone here is from our circle. If you make a scene, word will get back to my family, and they'll have even more reason to forbid our relationship. Forbid their relationship? What relationship? Wasn't she already married to Julian? A cheerful chorus of happy birthday erupted around them. Liam, however, just stood there, stiff and numb as a statue, any hint of celebration absent from his face. The song was halfway through when someone, he didn't see who, suddenly picked up the puppy and shoved it into his arms. A wave of revulsion and panic made his skin crawl. The dog, agitated, struggled in his hold and suddenly leaped out of his arms. It crashed into the towering champagne pyramid. The tower swayed, then toppled, sending a tidal wave of glass and champagne directly toward Liam and Julian. Screams filled the air. The falling glasses were a blur in Liam's vision. He saw Chloe, in a flash of movement, pull Julian into her arms and shield him, pulling him away from the danger. He watched as a cascade of shattered glass and cold liquid rained down on him. A shard of glass sliced open his shoulder, leaving a long, bloody gash. Blood dripped down, staining his soaked suit crimson. He collapsed to the floor, a pained grunt escaping his lips as cold sweat beaded on his forehead. Chloe heard the sound and turned back. Seeing him injured, she started to move toward him, but Julian let out a piercing shriek. Chloe, Lucky scratched me. What if I get rabies? Chloe looked at the tiny, hair-thin scratch on Julian's ankle. She hesitated for a moment, then barked an order at her secretary. Take Liam to the hospital and get that wound treated. With that, she turned and hurried away with Julian. The rest of the guests quickly followed suit, not forgetting to deliver a few parting shots. Lucky and Liam. Mr. Vance is quite the poet, isn't he? Some people really do look like stray dogs when they're pathetic. Don't insult Lucky. He's adorable, not like some social climbing mutt. Every word landed, sharp and clear. Liam looked down at his own pathetic, blood-soaked state. His nose stung and tears welled up. The happy birthday placard from the cake slid off the table and landed in front of him. He picked it up, staring at the chaotic, empty ballroom, and finally let the tears fall, unchecked. His 23rd birthday had come to a miserable, humiliating end. After the secretary dropped him home from the hospital, Liam turned on the lights to an empty apartment. His phone buzzed with a series of messages. It was Julian. "Since you like all my posts, you must know Chloe and I are officially married, right? She told me she's planning a wedding for us in the Maldives. I've already seen the plans. It's going to be magnificent. Every little detail is something we dreamed up when we were kids. I can't believe she remembered all this time. Oh, and I should thank you. If it wasn't for you, Chloe's eyes would have never healed. I really am grateful that you took care of my husband for 7 whole years." Looking at the shameless, taunting words, Liam found he didn't even have the energy to be angry. He went to his bedroom, fell onto the bed, and surrendered to a heavy sleep. Chloe didn't come home that night. She only sent a single text. "Liam, I still have some things to deal with. Is your shoulder bad? If it hurts too much, tell me, and I'll come back right away." Liam stared at the message, his gaze empty. After a long time, he typed a single word. "No, Chloe, from now on, I will never need you again." Once the gash on his shoulder had scabbed over, Liam drove out to the old Jeong family estate in Greenwich. It was the house where he and Chloe had lived alone during the years of her blindness. He found a spade in the shed and walked to the sprawling peach tree in the yard. Beneath it, they had buried a time capsule on her 18th birthday. He started digging. The metal box was rusted, and condensation clouded the glass jar sealed inside. He opened it and unfolded the star-shaped notes within. First, he found his own handwriting. "I hope Chloe can see the world again. I hope Chloe finds peace and happiness. I hope I can always be by Chloe's side." His future, his every wish, had been tied to her. Some had come true. Others were now impossible. He then unfolded the second note, the one Chloe had written. "I hope I can see again. I hope Julian is safe and well." Every word was about her and Julian. There was no mention of him. It was then he truly understood. She had never blamed Julian for abandoning her. She had willingly, without regret, accepted the consequences of the accident for his sake. A bleak smile touched Liam's lips. He crumpled his own wish into a tight ball and dropped it down a storm drain. Then, he pulled a silver chain from around his neck. It was the first gift she had given him after she reclaimed her position at the Jeong Corporation, bought with the profits from her first major deal. He remembered telling her it was too much money, but she had just held him, kissing him senseless. "Liam," she'd whispered, "they say it's lonely at the top, but with you by my side, I have the courage to keep climbing. This is just a necklace. Everything I have in the future, including me. It's all yours." He placed the necklace in the jar, sealed it, and buried it back in the earth, burying the past along with it. After smoothing the dirt over the hole, Liam turned to leave. But as he reached the gate, he saw a familiar car pull up. Chloe and Julian stepped out. She looked surprised to see him. "Liam, what are you doing here?" He didn't answer her question, asking one of his own. "And you? What are you and he doing here?" Before Chloe could speak, Julian smiled brightly. "I haven't heard Chloe play the piano in so long. She said the grand piano was still at the old house, so we came to get it. You know this place best, Mr. Vance. Why don't you show us the way?" Without waiting for an answer, Julian took his arm and pulled him back toward the house. The furnishings inside the house were exactly as they had been the day they left. Having lived there for so long, Chloe seemed moved by the memories. She turned to Liam. "Liam, do you remember when we—" "No." Liam cut her off, his voice barely audible as he looked at the floor. "I don't." Chloe froze, then pointed to a large Lego model in the corner. "Didn't we put that in the study when we finished it? Why is it out here?" Liam didn't follow her gaze. His voice was flat. "You couldn't see then? A lot of your memories are like illusions. They're mixed up, just like he had lived under the illusion that she loved him. But in reality, for her, he was just a mirage in the desert, a way to quench a desperate thirst. A guide dog she depended on in the dark, and therefore thought was important. But once she could see again, once she was free to do as she pleased, he became irrelevant. And he, too, had believed that their shared history would be enough to sustain them. In the end, it was all just a reflection in the water, a beautiful dream from which he had now been brutally awakened. Seeing the desolate look that flickered across Liam's face, Chloe felt a knot of frustration tighten in her chest. She wanted to ask him what was wrong, but he had already turned and walked out onto the veranda. "The piano is in the last room at the end of the hall. You can find it yourselves." As their footsteps faded away, Liam sat down in the old rocking chair and closed his eyes. Before long, the bright sun vanished behind a bank of dark clouds, and a light rain began to fall. He stood and went back inside, just as the sound of piano music drifted from down the hall. It was the first piece he had ever heard in his life, Liszt's Liebestrom. The melody pulled him back to that summer day when he was just a boy. He found himself walking toward the sound, drawn by a force he couldn't resist. Through the doorway, he saw Chloe and Julian sitting together at the piano, playing a four-hand duet. Even after all these years, their chemistry was seamless, their movements in perfect sync. And as she looked at him, her eyes held the same bottomless affection he remembered from long ago. Chloe truly loved Julian. She loved him so much that she had never forgotten him, even after he had abandoned her for 7 years. It was so clear now. They were the golden couple, a prince and princess from the same fairy tale world. Why had he, the housekeeper's son, ever deluded himself into thinking he could break into that world? Why had he ever dared to want someone who was never meant for him? If he could turn back time, he wouldn't have fallen for her at first sight. He wouldn't have secretly loved her for years. And he certainly wouldn't have thrown everything away to take care of a blind girl who was still pining for another man. The piano music softened, then fell silent. He watched as Julian's hand moved from the keys, sliding up Chloe's arm to rest on her shoulder. Then, Julian leaned in and captured her lips in a kiss. "Chloe," Julian murmured, "I know you still love me." At that moment, something inside Liam shattered. He turned and walked away. The rain was coming down harder now, soaking him to the bone. His mind was a blank fog. He was a weed on a cliffside, a lone boat capsized by a wave, uprooted, unmoored, adrift. The tears that fell from his eyes were lost in the deluge, leaving no trace behind. He worked until dawn. Chloe never came back, but he no longer cared. The next day, Liam went to the immigration office and picked up his documents. On the way back, he booked a flight to Melbourne for that afternoon. When the taxi pulled up to the apartment, he saw the black Maybach parked outside and quickened his pace. He found Chloe in the bedroom, standing beside his packed suitcase, her hand hovering over the latch as if she were about to open it. In a panic, he blurted out the first thing that came to mind. "Weren't you with Julian? Why are you back?" Chloe's body went rigid. She turned slowly, her eyes flashing not with guilt, but with anger. She walked toward him, her voice laced with deep frustration. "Liam, what are you imagining now? I told you, there will never be anything between Julian and me again. Never anything between you, but you married him to protect him." Tears of bitter laughter threatened to spill from his eyes, but he held them back, choosing not to expose her lie. "You're right. I'm misunderstood." Seeing his placid expression, Chloe seemed to relax. "There's a family dinner at the estate tonight," she said, her tone softening. "My parents have finally agreed. You can come with me." At this, Liam was the one who was stunned. Her parents agreed? Seeing his shocked expression, Chloe ran a hand through his hair and held out a credit card. "Liam, don't worry. One day, I will make them accept you. You'll be able to stand by my side, out in the open. I'm a little tired now. I need to rest. Can you let the secretary take you to pick out a suit?" Liam stared at the card for a long moment before taking it. "You rest. I can go by myself." Chloe nodded, rubbing her temples, and lay down on the bed, falling into a deep sleep almost instantly. Liam watched her, her face so unchanged from the girl he'd met at 17. A wave of sorrow washed over him. For the last time, he reached out, his fingers tracing the line of her brow, her nose, her lips. As if sensing him in her sleep, she stirred, grabbing his hand and murmuring softly, "Julian, stop it." Hearing the name, a silent, broken laugh escaped Liam's lips. He pulled his hand away, picked up his suitcase, and walked out of the room. The apartment was quiet. The staff were on their afternoon break. No one saw him leave. On the way to the airport, Liam methodically deleted and blocked Chloe's number from his phone. He deactivated all his social media accounts. In the bustling terminal, he stared at the departures board and made one final call. "Mrs. Jiang, I'm at the airport as promised. I'm about to board my flight." On the other end, her mother's voice was bright with unconcealed delight. "Good. As long as you don't show up at the dinner tonight, the rest of the money will be wired to your account. Goodbye then." The boarding call for his flight echoed through the terminal. He shook his head gently. "No, Mrs. Jiang, it's not goodbye. It's goodbye forever." He ended the call, tossed the phone into a nearby trash can, and walked toward the gate. He didn't slow down. He didn't look back. Chloe drifted in a restless sleep, haunted by fragmented memories of the past. The darkness, the confusion, the despair, it all came rushing back, but this time, the boy who had been her constant shadow was gone. "Liam," she murmured, her brow furrowed. She was trapped in a nightmare, her chest rising and falling in panicked breaths. In her dream, she stumbled through the old house, her hands outstretched, searching for the one person who was supposed to be there. She called his name over and over, but her only answer was a hollow, deafening silence. Overcome by a primal fear, her eyes flew open. Sweat beaded on her forehead. The blackout curtains made the room pitch black, and for a moment, her heart hammered against her ribs as she struggled to separate dream from reality. She sat up, her voice trembling. Liam. Silence. She called out again, louder this time. Liam. Still no answer. She scrambled out of bed, stumbling as she fumbled for the light switch. The room was flooded with light, and the sight of its familiar contents brought a wave of relief. The terror of the dream began to recede. Chloe rubbed her temples, but when she saw that the room was empty, a new wave of unease washed over her. Where was Liam? Her recently calmed heart began to pound again. Breathing heavily, she threw open the bedroom door. The villa was silent, save for a few housekeepers cleaning the living room. When they saw her, they greeted her politely. Where's Liam? She asked, her voice sharp with an urgency she couldn't explain. Mr. Vance? We haven't seen him, Ms. Jean. We assumed he was taking an afternoon nap with you in the room. Before Chloe could say more, her phone buzzed with the familiar alert of a priority contact. She pulled it out and instinctively played the new message. It was a whiny voice note from Julian. Chloe, the lights in my living room went out. I'm here all alone. Can you come help me? Chloe frowned, about to refuse, when another message came through. Chloe, I know you're taking Mr. Vance to your family dinner tonight. If I don't have any lights, I'll be all alone in the dark. His words trailed off, replaced by the sound of a soft, choked sob. If Liam comes back, call me immediately. I have to step out for a bit, Chloe instructed the staff. She went back to her room, changed her clothes, and grabbed her car keys. When she arrived at Julian's penthouse, she pushed open the door to find him sprawled on the sofa in a thin silk robe, a wide expanse of his pale chest exposed. He blinked his eyes open as if he had just woken up. Chloe, you're here. He sounded ecstatic, jumping up and running straight in her arms, pressing himself against her. Why are you wearing so little? You'll catch a cold, she said, reflexively wrapping her arms around him, letting him bury his face in her shoulder. I was scared, he whimpered from below. If you hadn't come, I would have been alone all night. Then you can come back to the Jiang estate with me tonight, she heard herself say, the words spilling out before she could stop them. The moment she said it, she regretted it. She was about to backtrack, but Julian had already pulled away, his eyes red and shining up at her. Really? Can I, Chloe? But seeing the troubled look on her face, tears welled in Julian Shun's eyes and began to fall. Chloe, is this too much for you? It's okay, really. If it's a bad time, I won't go today. He'd expected her to immediately soften, to coo and soothe him. But instead, the woman in front of him seemed to let out a breath of pure relief. She reached up and gently patted his head. Today is complicated. It's better if you don't come back with me. Julian's eyes widened in disbelief. A flash of hatred crossed his face before it was replaced by that same pitiable, wounded expression. The tears he'd been holding back began to stream down his cheeks again. Chloe. But Chloe was clearly miles away, her mind elsewhere. She didn't notice his micro-expressions, merely pushing him a little further away and looking up at the light fixture overhead. This is the one that's broken? Seeing that she wasn't falling for his act, Julian bit his lip and muttered a sulky, yeah. He plopped down on the sofa and turned away from her, pouting. Chloe's mind wasn't on him or the light. The nightmare she'd had earlier kept replaying in her head, a tide of panic rising inside her, threatening to pull her under. Sensing her strange detachment, Julian edged closer again, sniffling as he tugged on the sleeve of her blazer. Chloe, what's wrong? That snapped her back to the present. Her heart was pounding so hard a film of cold sweat broke out on her forehead. She shook his hand off, her brow furrowed as she pulled out her phone, intending to call Liam Vance. But the call wouldn't go through. The incessant beeping on the other end only fueled her growing anxiety. Julian, something's come up. I have to go, she said, her words rushed. I'll send someone over to fix the light later. Without waiting for his reaction, she threw the door open and strode out. Staring at the door that had slammed shut in his face, the resentment in Julian's eyes was so thick it seemed to spill over. He didn't have to guess. He knew she was rushing off to find that bastard, Liam. He pulled out his phone, his thumbs flying across the screen. How fucking pathetic are you, Liam? Desperate to be some dirty little secret on the side? Why don't you just die? The moment he hit send, a glaring red exclamation mark popped up next to the message. Liam had blocked him. Instantly, a terrible premonition washed over him. He reflexively, frantically, deleted the provocative message history from his own phone. Meanwhile, Chloe arrived back at the sprawling Greenwich estate. She pushed open the front door, her eyes scanning the foyer, but the figure she was so desperate to see was nowhere in sight. Where's Liam? Isn't he back yet? For some reason, Her voice was trembling. We haven't seen Mr. Vance since this afternoon, ma'am. The housekeeper, Maria, replied. Oh, and Miss Jiang? When we were cleaning up earlier, we noticed. Well, it seems all of Mr. Vance's things are gone. The words hit her like a blast of Arctic air. A violent shiver racked her body. What do you mean? The housekeeper looked up, her expression one of genuine confusion. Miss Jiang, didn't you have his things packed away? I saw all his clothes were missing from a closet. I just assumed you were planning on buying him a new wardrobe. Chloe stood frozen, a desperate hope flickering within her, as if Liam might materialize before her eyes at any moment. Liam! She called his name over and over, but with each repetition, the panic in her heart grew larger. An impossible thought began to take root. Liam! Left her? She couldn't believe it. She wouldn't. Liam, are you playing a joke on me? Come on out. This isn't funny at all, she shouted into the empty space. I'm sorry about this morning, okay? But Julie and I are just friends, I swear. Please, just believe me. She paced through the house, her eyes scanning every room, searching for any sign of him hiding. It was only then that she began to notice it. Things were missing. A lot of things. The framed photos of them together. His toiletries in the bathroom. His favorite books from the nightstand. Gone. All of it. How could that be? How could everything just disappear? Chloe felt a wave of hysteria rising. The nightmare from that afternoon flooded her mind again. She fumbled for her phone, her hands shaking as she tried calling him one more time. But all she got was that same dead-end beeping. She switched to iMessage, typing furiously, only to be met with that damning red exclamation mark. He had blocked her. Her pupils dilated. Her body began to tremble uncontrollably as a monstrous wave of terror consumed her. She numbly scrolled through her contacts, searching for his social media profiles. But they were all gone. He had deactivated everything. His Instagram, his Twitter, all of it erased. Her mind went blank, a blinding white static. She racked her brain, trying to think of where he could have possibly gone. Liam's father had passed away when he was young, and his mother had lost her battle with a long illness 2 years ago. Desperate, she started calling his friends. Hello, this is Chloe Jiang. Is Liam there with you? What? Chloe, what are you talking about? Why would he be here? The same conversation played out a dozen times. She even called her own friends. No one knew anything. No one had seen him. The feeling of absolute despair washed over her again and again. It was as if she had been plunged back into that nightmare, the one where Liam didn't exist. The deep, complicated affection she had for him now consumed her entire being. His sudden absence felt like a physical wound, like flesh being carved directly from her heart. The agonizing pain threatened to break her. Liam, please stop playing games with me, okay? I just want to see you, she screamed, her voice raw. Her eyes were bloodshot, like a lioness that had lost its mate. But why? She asked herself. Why? Every detail of their time together over the past few months replayed in her mind. And then it hit her. The way she had so obviously favored Julian, the way she had neglected Liam. And that day she'd been speaking Italian with her friends, and he had suddenly gone rigid beside her. Maria, she asked, her voice raspy, did he ever study Italian? Seeing her wild, frantic expression, the housekeeper answered cautiously. Mr. Vance has been studying several languages for years, ma'am. He had private tutors. Didn't you know? BZZZT. The last taut string in her mind finally snapped. He had known all along. He knew about the secret courthouse wedding with Julian. He knew she was planning to hide it from him, with everyone else's complicity. Chloe's heart hammered in her chest. She thought she had been so clever that she could manage both Julian and Liam. She thought she had been so careful. Julian was just an old ghost, a lingering obsession. She had been angry that he'd left her for another woman years ago, and a part of her had gone mad with the desire to keep him by her side forever. But he was supposed to be the one in the shadows. She had never intended for Liam to know, because the man she truly loved, the man who had been her rock since she'd lost her sight, was Liam. It was always going to be Liam, but she never imagined he would learn Italian, that he had understood everything, that he had discovered it all. How could he be so cruel? It was just a fixation on the past, a moment of pity for Julian. How could he just delete his entire existence and vanish from her world? Her vision blurred as tears finally spilled from her eyes. She remembered all those years he had stayed by her side, a steady, warm voice in her world of darkness. Don't be afraid, Chloe. I'll always be with you. Always. As long as you never do anything to betray my trust. Then yes, always. She had pulled the young man into her arms then, her voice thick with emotion. I would never betray you, Liam. It's a promise. You have to stay with me forever. So when did it all change? Was it Julian's constant, pathetic pleading? the sight of his tear-streaked, pitiful face. Gradually, she had started to take Liam's presence for granted. She began to dwell on the man who had abandoned her, the man who, by some twist of fate, was now broken and waiting for her to save him. She had been so confident, so certain she could control everything and everyone. But she had forgotten. Liam may have had no one else, but he was never the type to suffer in silence, to swallow his pride. He knew her too well. He knew that if she found out he was planning to leave, she would stop him. She would use every dirty trick in the book to keep him tethered to her. So he had abandoned everything, including every possible way for her to find him, and disappeared from her life completely. As the full weight of this realization settled over her, Chloe fought back the bitterness rising in her throat. No, Liam, I'm not letting you go. I'll never let you go. She whispered his name over and over, her eyes burning with a desperate longing. Liam, I was wrong. I shouldn't have treated you that way over another man. You can do whatever you want to me, hit me, scream at me, anything, just please don't leave me. She repeated her apologies until her voice was a raw, broken whisper. But the one person who needed to hear them was gone. It was all for nothing. Liam Vance, she declared, her eyes hardening with a terrifying resolve. I will find you. To the ends of the earth, I will find you. We will meet again. She would not let go. Liam Vance could only ever belong to her. She would grovel. She would get on her knees and beg. She would do whatever it took to make him forgive her. But she would never, ever allow him to leave her. Her eyes filled with a fierce determination. Chloe opened the photo gallery on her phone. With trembling hands, she found his picture and, with the reverence of a prayer, pressed her lips to the screen. The Australian Border Protection officer flipped through his documents, asking a few standard questions. Mr. Liam Vance, what is your intended length of stay in Australia? Hello. I've accepted a position with a company in Melbourne. My work visa has already been processed. I'm planning to be here for at least 2 years. Hearing his fluent, unaccented English, the officer nodded, stamped his passport, and waved him through. Liam offered a polite thank you, collected his luggage, and walked out of the airport into the bright Australian sun. He pulled out a new phone he'd bought and looked at the address of his hotel before hailing a cab. The driver was a friendly Chinese-Australian woman who struck up a conversation the moment she saw him. Hearing his native Mandarin in this foreign land felt strangely comforting. They chatted the whole way. The driver gave him a list of tips and things to watch out for in Melbourne, and he mentally filed them all away. When they arrived at the hotel, they exchanged numbers before she helped him with his luggage and left. Liam used his key card to open the door to a clean, modern room. The adrenaline that had been fueling him for days finally dissipated, and a wave of exhaustion washed over him. He unpacked a few things, went downstairs for a quiet dinner, then came back, showered, and collapsed onto the soft bed, falling asleep almost instantly. He slept soundly through the night. It was 2 p.m. the next day when he finally woke, groggy and disoriented. It took him a full 5 minutes of staring at the unfamiliar ceiling to remember that he had left his entire life behind and was now in a new country. Melbourne was in the thick of summer, the air heavy with heat. He pulled on a t-shirt and shorts, went out for a late lunch, and then took a cab to the neighborhood near his new office to check out the apartment he'd arranged to rent. The landlord was there on time and handed over the keys. After a quick tour of his new home, Liam made a list of things he needed to buy, then scheduled a cleaning service to give the place a deep clean. That evening, he returned with his luggage and officially moved in. Over the next few days, Liam bought furniture and household necessities, slowly filling the empty rooms. As he unpacked, he messaged back and forth with his new roommate, who was set to arrive in a few days. Gradually, he started to adapt to his new life. He was a good cook, and his apartment was near a couple of universities. Being young himself, he naturally fell in with a group of international students, becoming good friends with 2 guys from his building. They took him shopping, showed him the best local restaurants, and dragged him out to see the sights. Between his new job and his new friends, his days were full and surprisingly pleasant. One morning, he was woken by a noise at the front door. He stumbled out of his bedroom, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, to see a young man in his early 20s wrestling with a large suitcase. The man looked up and gave him a shy smile. Hi, are you Liam Vance? I'm Leo's son, your roommate. Liam remembered. Leo had messaged him a few days ago, saying he'd be arriving today. He quickly went to greet him, helping him with his bags and showing him around the apartment. Within a few hours, the 2 of them, who had only ever chatted online, were getting along like old friends. That afternoon, they went to the supermarket together to stock up on groceries. Leo was still a student and had to start classes in a few days. To celebrate, Liam cooked a huge meal and invited the other friends he'd made over for a small dinner party. After spending so much time together, they had all become a close-knit group. Someone, it was hard to say who, started the topic: ex-girlfriends. The conversation was met with roaring laughter from some and teary-eyed silence from others. Some of the stories were so absurd that Leo was doubled over, clutching his stomach. He nudged Liam, who was one of the few still completely sober. "What about you, Liam? You got any stories?" Liam's expression went blank for a moment as memories he'd tried to bury flickered through his mind. Suddenly, he found the topic painfully difficult to talk about. Enough time had passed that thinking about Chloe Jiang didn't bring a fresh wave of pain, but looking at these kids, all younger than him, all still students, he had no idea what to say. The lively atmosphere fell into an awkward silence. Leo, realizing his mistake, quickly changed the subject, saving Liam from having to answer. Later that night, after everyone had left, Leo, now mostly sober, came over to Liam's room and apologized sheepishly. "Hey man, I'm so sorry. I'd had a bit too much to drink and my brain-to-mouth filter just shut off." Liam, of course, wasn't angry. He just smiled and ruffled the kid's hair. "Don't worry about it. Go get some rest." After cleaning up the apartment, he showered and lay down in bed, opening the new private Signal account he'd created just before coming to Australia. He had only given the contact to one person, a single trusted friend. No one else knew where he was or how to reach him. His eyes widened in surprise. There were dozens of unread messages, with a little red notification bubble still climbing. He opened the chat and skimmed the messages. Nearly all of them were about Chloe. Is Chloe for real? Wasn't she all happy-go-lucky with her precious long-lost love? The minute you leave, it's like a switch flips, and she realizes how important you were. It's hilarious. Does she think this is some kind of movie where she gets a do-over and wins the guy back? She keeps hitting me up every few days, asking where you are. Don't worry, bro. My lips are sealed. I never tell her. Oh, and get this. About a month ago, she had a massive screaming match with her mother at some family dinner. From what I overheard, she was blaming her mom for driving you away. The woman is certifiably insane. What does her mom have to do with it? Wasn't the main issue that she was playing games and trying to lie to your face? She's been drinking like a fish lately. Heard she almost perforated her stomach lining a few days ago, ended up in the ICU. Doctors told her she absolutely cannot keep drinking like that. If you ask me, she got off too easy. A shame she didn't just drink herself to death. There were many more messages, all of them variations on the same theme. Reading so much about Chloe again, Liam felt nothing, not a single ripple of emotion. The memories felt hazy, like they had happened in another lifetime. He pulled back the curtains. Outside, the sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue, like a perfectly polished sapphire. The warm, bright sunlight streamed in, chasing away the last of the chill that had clung to him for so long. "Liam, I'm heading to class." Leo's energetic voice called from the front door. A genuine smile spread across Liam's face. "Be safe," he called back. Then he picked up his phone, his voice light and clear, full of relief and release. "From now on, you don't have to tell me anything else about Chloe Jiang." The phantom sense of unreality that had haunted him for months finally, completely dissolved. The aftereffects of the alcohol were still raging. Her head was spinning, and a heavy, sour ache churned in her stomach. Chloe stared at her surroundings, the blurry shapes slowly coming into focus. She was in a hospital room. Her mother, Mrs. Jiang, stood by the bed, her eyes red with fury. To act like you're dying over a man like that. He's just a housekeeper's son, Chloe. What on earth do you see in him? A few of her so-called friends crowded around, chiming in with their own well-meaning advice. "Liam's been gone a month, Chloe. Not a single word. He's obviously doing this on purpose. You need to just let it go." Chloe had been hearing these same lines for a month straight. She'd never listened before, and she wasn't starting now. The words just washed over her. Her bloodshot eyes were vacant and unfocused, her thin lips pressed into a tight line. The only thing left on her face was a stubborn refusal to yield. Seeing her like this, Mrs. Jiang gave up. Without another glance, she turned and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. A dead silence fell. Her friends exchanged uneasy looks before one of them tried again. "Honestly, Chloe, with your status now, you could have any man you want. There's really no need to stay hung up on Liam Vance. You should let him see that you're better off without him, that you're surrounded by other better men. He'll see that he's nothing without you, and he'll come crawling back. Yeah, or if you really miss him, we can find you a few guys who look like him. You can train them to be just what you want. It's the same thing, right? I mean, crash. A water glass shattered at their feet, spraying water and shards of glass across their designer shoes. Everyone froze, not daring to breathe. Before, when Liam had been so devoted to the blind Chloe, they had been dismissive. A blind woman, a cast-off from a powerful family. They couldn't understand why anyone would bother sucking up to her. But slowly, that disdain had morphed into a bitter jealousy. They were all from wealthy families, with men cycling in and out of their lives, but none of them had ever found someone as genuine and devoted as Liam. They had tried to set Chloe up with other men, but even after she regained her sight and became a powerhouse in their circle, she'd had eyes only for Liam. Until Julian came back, they had pretended to be concerned, all while secretly creating opportunities for Chloe and Julian to get together. And it had worked. Chloe's great love wasn't so unbreakable after all, and a man like Liam needed to learn his place, that there was no such thing as true love in their world. Now that Liam was gone, they had expected Chloe to spiral into a whirlwind of parties and meaningless flings. They never expected her to completely lose her mind. And now, it seemed, they couldn't even say a word against him. "Get out." Chloe's voice was dangerously low. "All of you. And from now on, you will not speak ill of Liam in my presence. If you do, I can't guarantee what I might do to your family's business interests." The icy threat landed, and their faces went pale with fear. One by one, they made excuses and hurried out of the room. The last woman to leave paused at the door, her heart full of resentment. After shutting it behind her, she pulled out her phone and sent a picture of Liam to her assistant. "Take a good look at this man's face. Find me someone who looks like him. The closer the resemblance, the better." She turned and shot a cold, contemptuous look at the closed hospital door. "Let's see how Chloe likes this." The day after she discovered Liam was gone, Chloe had made an appointment with Julian to file for divorce. The mandatory 30-day waiting period was finally over, and she needed the dissolution finalized as soon as possible. On that day, Julian had cried and whimpered, but ultimately hadn't put up a fight. He had obediently gone with her to sign the papers, his tear-filled eyes fixed on her as he told her he just wanted her to be happy. She had been furious with him, but seeing him act so compliant and docile, she couldn't bring herself to lay into him. She'd even agreed to keep their divorce quiet for the time being. She drove to Julian's apartment. As she reached his front door, about to let herself in, she heard voices from inside. That bastard Liam must have seen those texts. Why didn't he just go kill himself instead of playing this disappearing act? It's been a month. Why isn't Chloe over him yet? What's so great about that piece of trash anyway? What are you so jealous for? You know you're the only one I really love. The words, fragmented and muffled, drifted through the door, each one a sharp blade plunging into Chloe's heart. Her breathing grew ragged, and a dangerous red glint appeared in her eyes. She threw the door open with a resounding bang. Julian, startled, immediately hung up the phone, his face a mask of panic as he looked towards the entrance. He forced a wobbly smile. "Chloe, shouldn't you be resting? Why are you out of the hospital? Who are you talking to?" Her voice was thin and sharp, her gaze as cold as ice. Julian's pupils constricted, but he struggled to maintain his composure. "Oh, that was just a friend of mine. She was asking if I saw anything I liked from the new season's collection. But I was just so sad thinking about you and me separating that I barely paid attention." He feigned a casual shrug. "Why?" A humorless smile twisted Chloe's lips as she advanced on him, one slow step at a time. "Who are you calling a bastard? And who's getting jealous of you?" The color drained from Julian's face. He lunged forward, grabbing her sleeve, his eyes wide with pleading. "No, Chloe, you must have misheard. My friend was just jealous that I was spending all my time with you instead of going shopping with her. She wasn't calling anyone a bastard, I swear." Chloe ripped her arm from his grasp, a chilling darkness creeping into her expression. "What did you do behind my back?" she hissed. "Don't force me to find out for myself. You must have said something, or done something, to drive Liam away." He fell back on his old trick. Fat tears rolled down his cheeks as he sniffled, his voice breaking into a sob. "I didn't. I only found out when you told me. I didn't do anything, Chloe." But this time it didn't work. There was no softening in Chloe's eyes. She seized his wrist, her face contorted with fury. Her grip tightened, so hard it felt like she was trying to crush the bones. "Julian, I don't have the patience to play these games with you. You better tell me the truth, right now. Everything you know, or else." Her voice dropped to a terrifying whisper. "You know I'm not a sentimental person." He didn't understand. How could her attitude towards him have changed so drastically, so quickly? Before, all he had to do was cry, and she would become frantic with concern. Now, her eyes held nothing but cold indifference. It felt like he could cry himself dry, and she wouldn't feel a single shred of pity. Julian refused to confess to taunting Liam or orchestrating the other schemes. He clamped his mouth shut, praying with a desperate hope. Chloe, I didn't do anything. Please, you have to believe me. Mr. Vance is such a good person, and you've helped me so much. I would never do anything to hurt him. I'm grateful to both of you. He squeezed out a few more tears, his voice trembling. I know he never liked me, and I guess he's throwing a bit of tantrum now. But Chloe, please don't take it out on me just because he left. He was banking on her usual leniency, hoping she would just let it slide. She couldn't have heard everything, right? And even if she did, he could just blame his friend, claim he was just trying to mediate a fight. If he could just get past this, they would still be spending time together. With their shared history, he was sure he could win her back completely. But the woman standing before him was a stranger. Gone was the indulgent Chloe he knew. She let out a cold, sharp laugh, a mocking smile spreading across her lips. You really are clueless, aren't you? After all these years, you still don't know what kind of person I am. Her voice was laced with contempt. Julian, my patience has a limit. In one swift movement, she slammed his head down onto the table, her hand clamping around his throat. Since you won't talk, maybe I'll just give your family a call. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to take you back. The physical pain of suffocation was nothing compared to the terror of her threat. His mind flashed with the image of his father telling him he had to marry that lecherous old investor. Panic seized him, a raw fear that threatened to shatter his sanity. No, don't tell them. I'll talk. Chloe, I'll tell you everything. Only then did Chloe slowly release her grip. Speak. Cough, cough. The sudden rush of cold air into his lungs sent him into a violent coughing fit. But he didn't dare stop. He gasped for breath, whimpering as he spoke. You can look at my phone. While speaking, he fumbled to unlock his phone and held it out to her. I didn't do anything, I swear. It's all just a big misunderstanding. Julian was secretly congratulating himself. He was certain he had deleted all the incriminating messages he'd sent to Liam. Chloe glanced at the phone, instantly guessing that he was still trying to bluff his way out. She snatched it from his hand, already dialing a number. She was going to send it to her tech team to have them pull a full data recovery. Hearing her on the phone, Julian felt his world collapse. He scrambled to his feet and grabbed on her arm, begging desperately. Chloe, please believe me. I'm begging you just this once. Please don't send it for data recovery. But this time, Chloe had no intention of giving him another chance. She had given him more than enough already, and he had squandered every single one. She watched him collapse to the floor in a heap, her voice cold and steady as she spoke to her assistant on the phone, instructing her to find out everything Julian had done to Liam. She had repurchased exact replicas of all of Liam's belongings and placed them back where they used to be. Every time she came home, she could almost trick herself into feeling his presence. But he was gone, and without him, the entire estate felt dead and lifeless, drained of all its energy. Her assistant had sent over the recovered data from Julian's phone. Chloe had been staring at the file for hours, building up the courage just to open it. Finally, she took a deep breath and clicked. The most recent item was a video from the day before Liam left. Julian had secretly filmed them at the piano, capturing the moment their lips had briefly touched. The video was paired with a text. You probably don't know this, but this is Chloe's favorite spot. I won't film what we do next. I don't think you could handle it. Tell me, is it fun playing dumb? How does it feel being the dirty little secret? You'll never be anything more than that, you know? But hey, if you beg me, maybe I'll let Chloe visit you a few more times. Scrolling up, she was met with a barrage of taunts and insults. There were countless photos and videos of her and Julian, intimate moments he had curated and sent directly to Liam. His private Instagram story was a feed of their supposed happiness, with the privacy settings tailored so that only one person could see it, Liam Vance. A tidal wave of rage washed over Chloe, so intense it nearly blinded her. But then she opened the other folder, the one containing correspondence, and the furious expression on her face froze. The blood in her veins turned to ice. The muggers from the charity auction. Julian had hired them himself, and that night, she had pushed Liam to the ground. She had ignored the blood streaming from the gash on his forehead. She had forced him to drink alcohol, something she knew he couldn't have. She remembered the profound sadness in his eyes that day, the soft, bitter laugh that escaped his lips when he heard her defending Julian. Chloe's heart gave a violent lurch, and the next second, a pain so sharp it felt like her chest was being carved open shot through her. A cold sweat broke out all over her body. Bring me Julian Shun, she snarled, her voice so dark it sounded like it was dripping venom. A few minutes later, Julian was shoved into the room. He saw the photos scattered on the floor and instantly understood. All the color drained from his face. He dropped to his knees, crawling across the floor to her feet. Chloe, I'm so sorry. I did things I shouldn't have, but it was all because I love you. I love you so much that I wasn't thinking straight, that I said those horrible things to him. But all I ever wanted was to be able to stand by your side, out in the open. That's all I wanted, Chloe. Chloe let out a cold laugh. She grabbed his chin, her grip so tight it left a blooming purple bruise on his skin. I told you more than once not to do anything in front of Liam. Are you incapable of understanding a simple instruction? Now he's gone because of you, she hissed, and you will face the consequences. She flung his head to the side. But Julian, his eyes red and swollen, crawled back, his voice trembling. Chloe, I'm begging you, please forgive me. The woman before him didn't even spare him a glance. The Shin family's fortunes had long since faded. They were teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, and if he couldn't secure his position as Chloe's husband, he would be ruined. Worse, he might be sold off to that disgusting old predator his father had lined up to be used. His face was ashen. He lunged for his phone, intending to call Mrs. Jiang for help. Chloe kicked the phone out of his hand without a second thought. She stood up and used the toe of her shoe to tilt his chin up, her voice like ice. The divorce papers are filed. Your consent is irrelevant. Don't even think about trying any of your pathetic little tricks. When I find Liam, you had better give him a sincere apology. If he decides to forgive you, I might consider letting you have a future. Otherwise, she gave him no room to argue. In her world, he would always be the one groveling beneath her. Julian collapsed to the floor, a boneless heap of despair. Chloe, however, was done with him. She had already done so much to hurt Liam. If she kept Julian around, any chance she had of reconciliation would be gone forever. A look of brutal determination hardened her features. She ordered her bodyguards to drag Julian out. He struggled, cried, and begged for mercy, but he was no match for them. Tears streamed down his face as they hauled him away. Later that night, Chloe was back at her usual haunt, an exclusive private lounge, sitting alone in a booth, drowning her sorrows in alcohol. She couldn't remember the last time she'd had a full night's sleep. The scent of Liam was fading from the house, and soon she wouldn't even be able to pretend he had ever lived there. She couldn't bear to go back, so she ran here instead, drinking bottle after bottle. I'm sorry, Liam. She slurred to the empty room. You hated it when I drank, didn't you? Come out and stop me. Please, Liam. Just then, there was a knock at the door of her private room. She ignored it. Besides her, only a few of her friends knew about this room, and she hadn't told them she was coming tonight. It had to be someone who had the wrong room. But the knocking continued, insistent. When she didn't answer, the door handle turned, and someone walked in. Get out. The harsh words died on her lips as she looked up. Standing in the doorway was a young man with a drink cart. Hello, miss. Did you order these drinks? The voice. It was so familiar it made her ears ring. Her eyes instantly reddened. Liam, who did you just call? The boy's expression, his movements, the near-identical face and voice. For a split second, she truly believed Liam Vance was standing before her. But the confusion in his eyes told her otherwise. This wasn't him. This boy was younger, not even 20, looking more like Liam had in college. Chloe fought the overwhelming urge to pull him into an embrace. Her voice trembled. What's your name? The young server seemed startled, taking 2 steps back. Sorry, I think I have the wrong private room. He turned to leave, but Chloe shot out a hand and grabbed his arm. Her hand was still shaking. Hot tears streamed down her cheeks, one landing on the back of the boy's hand. He hesitated, stopping. He fumbled with the service card, found a pack of tissues, and handed one to her. Hey, are you okay? You should wipe your tears. When Chloe looked up again, the frantic haze in her eyes had cleared, replaced by a cool clarity. She looked at the boy with a complicated expression. You work here? Quit. Come work for me. I'll pay you 10 times what you make now. The boy flinched back again, yanking his hand free. What kind of person do you think I am? He snapped, his face flushing with anger. This time, he didn't hesitate. He pushed the cart and practically fled the room, leaving Chloe standing alone, staring blankly at his retreating back. He's so much like him. Her heart hammered in her chest. Logic screamed to her to leave the boy alone, that if Liam ever found out about this, any chance of reconciliation would be destroyed forever. But another voice, a persistent whisper in the back of her mind, began to weave its own narrative. You're not going to do anything to him. You just want to look at his face. It's fine. Once you find Liam, you'll send this boy away. Liam will never even know he existed. In the end, the whisper won. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number for the lounge's proprietor. Less than half an hour later, a file on the boy was delivered to her table. His name was Alex. He was a university student whose sole guardian his mother, had been struck by a sudden, severe illness. He'd taken the job here out of desperation. The pay was higher than average, and the tips could be substantial. He hadn't been working here long, mostly just serving drinks and clearing tables. "Bring him to me," Chloe said, her voice low. She stared at the photo of Alex in a file, her gaze distant, as if she were looking through him at someone else. Soon, the boy was standing before her again. He looked at her timidly, a cautious, almost frightened expression on his face, a look Liam would have never worn. "Don't look at me like that. I'm not going to eat you," Chloe said, an unconscious edge of impatience creeping into her tone. "Stay with me. I'll cover all of your mother's medical expenses. The only thing I ask is that you let me decide how you dress." Alex looked panicked, trapped. He glanced behind him, but one of Chloe's security guards blocked the exit. Defeated, he could only look up at the woman standing before him. What do I have to do?" Staring at the face that was an 80% match, Chloe lost herself again. "You don't have to do anything. You just have to be with me." Her voice softened, becoming a hypnotic murmur. "I'll take care of everything. You just have to do as I say." She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And the first thing is, promise me you'll never leave me again, Liam." Billionaire heiress saves a desperate young man from a dead-end job. His TikTok account exploded. The most recent video showed a lavish birthday party Chloe had thrown for him, culminating in a dramatic public proposal. The engagement video went viral, and in just 2 months, he had become an influencer with over 10 million followers. The video ended with an announcement, a wedding in 2 weeks to be live-streamed for all their fans. The 2 weeks flew by. Chloe spared no expense. The wedding venue was breathtakingly opulent, and she'd invited dozens of content creators and media outlets to broadcast the event live. The whole affair was trending, holding the #1 spot on Twitter. At noon, the ceremony began. Everything proceeded exactly as it had in rehearsal, until the officiant asked the pivotal question. "Chloe Jiang, do you take this man to be your husband? To have and to hold, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish from this day forward?" Chloe's lips curved into a smile, but her voice was as cold as ice. "I don't." Alex's eyes widened in disbelief. He lunged forward, grabbing her hand. "Chloe, what? Are you joking?" She wrenched her hand away, shoving him so hard he stumbled and fell to the floor. She looked down at him, her expression one of utter contempt. "Who the hell do you think you are? You think you're worthy of marrying me? Don't think for a second I don't know who sent you." Alex was speechless. Chloe, however, was unnervingly calm. She motioned for the camera crews to keep rolling. The live chats were imploding as thousands more viewers flooded in to watch the train wreck. The comments were a frantic scroll of question marks and exclamation points. "This man," she announced, her voice ringing through the silent hall, "was sent by a friend of mine, or, I should say, a rival. They found a lookalike of the man I love. I pretended to fall for it, secretly encouraging him to build this online platform, pouring money into promoting him, all for the sake of today's live broadcast. Liam Vance, I know I was wrong. I was so wrong. You are the only husband I will ever have in this life. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, I swear I will find you. You promised me you would always be by my side." To everyone watching, she continued, "If any of you know where Liam Vance is right now, if you can provide me with any information, I am willing to offer a generous reward. Thank you." Behind her, the giant screen that had been playing a romantic montage of her and Alex flickered. An image of Liam Vance's face filled the screen. A second later, the live feed was cut. Down in the audience, Mrs. Jiang stood with a face like thunder, snapping her phone shut. It was she who had ordered the broadcast to be terminated. Seeing the crazed, desperate look in her daughter's eyes on stage, she felt nothing but profound disappointment. The farce was over. Alex was forcibly dragged away. Chloe, surrounded by her bridesmaids, was escorted to a waiting car. "Chloe, why did you have to do all this?" her friend Jenna asked from the driver's seat. "There are other ways to find Liam. You really sent your mother over the edge with this stunt." But Chloe just smiled, leaning back against the leather seat. She scrolled through her phone, looking at the multiple trending topics about her, a genuine smile gracing her lips for the first time in ages. This was the only way to get enough people to see. "The entire internet will help me look for Liam now. As long as he comes back to me, nothing else matters." Liam Vance stared, then instinctively opened his apartment door. Leo's son stood in the hallway, his lips pressed into a thin, serious line. "Liam, I think you're trending back in the States." He handed his phone to Liam. The top trending topics on Twitter were all variations of Chloe's name. One headline blared, hashtag Chloe Jean Felt The feed was flooded with his photo. So far, No one seemed to have posted his current location. The expression on Liam's face froze. He took the phone, confused, and scrolled through the viral mess, his brow furrowed. Leo didn't press him, just watched with a worried gaze. Liam himself didn't have a huge reaction. He just sighed, a deep, weary breath of resignation. That's me. Chloe is my ex. I left the country right after we broke up. The sudden gossip bomb silenced the small apartment for a moment. Finally, Leo spoke, his voice full of shock. Huh, you broke up? Then why is she making such a huge scene? Isn't this just going to cause problems for you? Liam rubbed his temples. It's a bit of hassle, but I'm out of the country, and for certain reasons, her family can't travel internationally right now, so the impact should be minimal. But Leo looked unconvinced. You should still be careful. She seems really extreme. People at work might start to recognize you. Maybe you should wear a hat or something when you go out for a while, man. Seeing Leo's genuine concern, Liam managed a faint smile. It's okay. She can't come to Australia. Anyway, Leo clearly wasn't reassured. He nodded glumly, then disappeared into his room and came back with a baseball cap. Here, take this. It'll help you lay low, and it's good for sun protection. Liam took it, trying to lighten the mood with a joke. She's just an ex-girlfriend. You don't have to be so tense. Liam, she had a complete meltdown at her own wedding. That's not normal, Leo insisted. I've read so many stories about exes who get obsessed and do crazy things out of misplaced love. I'm seriously worried she's going to latch onto you and something bad will happen. Hearing such earnest concern from a guy he'd only known for a few months, Liam's heart softened. He reached out and patted Leo's hand. We were together for a long time. Even though she did a lot to hurt me, I don't think she'd go that far. She wouldn't actually harm me. Don't worry. He said it with a smile, but Leo remembered how silent Liam had gone a few days ago when the topic of exes had come up. He could guess that the relationship had left deep scars. Leo didn't know how to comfort him. He racked his brain and could only come up with a few simple words. You'll get past it, Liam. You're out of that toxic swamp now. Just keep looking forward. He puffed out his chest a little. And hey, we're here with you. I have a ton of friends. If she ever dares to show up here and cause trouble, I'll get them all to protect you. Looking into his friend's determined eyes, the anxiety in Liam's chest slowly began to dissolve. He let out a small laugh. Okay, thanks, Leo. He had survived the hardest days already. Now he was on the other side of the world, with new friends who had his back. What was there left to fear? It happened after Chloe, in her rage, targeted one of her former friends, a woman named Isabel, driving her to the brink of bankruptcy. Pushed to her limit, Isabel went public with everything she knew. In a long, scathing thread that immediately went viral, she laid it all bare. Liam Vance is a good man. When Chloe Jiang went blind after a breakup with her first love, he was the one who stayed by her side, helped her out of her depression, and waited patiently until she regained her sight. The second she could see again, Mrs. Jiang's attitude flipped. Suddenly, Liam wasn't good enough. But Chloe protected him, and for a while, they were happy. Then Julian Shun, the ex, came back. He shed a few crocodile tears, and Chloe, like an idiot, ran off and got a courthouse wedding with him, all while trying to hide it from Liam. During that time, Julian framed Liam for all sorts of things, and the woman you all think is so devoted and in love, she defended Julian and tormented Liam. She's the one who drove him away until he disappeared without a trace. And you people are all suckers. You believe whatever she says. You really think this is true love? So in love, she secretly marries another man? So in love, she gets pregnant with that man's child, has an abortion when it becomes a problem, and then personally sells him off to some lecherous old investor to save her own skin? For everyone who admires her so much, I hope you all find a true love just like Chloe Jiang. With that, Chloe's carefully constructed public persona shattered. The Jiang family worked fast to get the posts taken down, but the internet's screenshots and outrage were faster. The few leads she had on Liam's whereabouts vanished. People who had been willing to help now sent her streams of curses before blocking her. Chloe was apoplectic, turning her fury on Isabel, doubling down until her former best friend was ruined, bankrupt, and saddled with immense debt. Perhaps seeing no hope left, one day, as Chloe was being driven somewhere, Isabel appeared out of nowhere in a beat-up cargo van, floored the accelerator, and slammed head-on into Chloe's car. The van was so dilapidated it crumpled on impact, killing Isabel instantly. Chloe's luxury sedan, with its superior safety features, saved her life. But the damage to her body was catastrophic. Her organs were failing, and the force of the collision had destroyed her optic nerves. She was permanently blind, with no hope of recovery. When Chloe woke, her world was pitch black. She tried to sit up, but her body felt weightless, like she was floating in a cloud, utterly limp and powerless. What's happening? What's wrong with me? Losing her sight again threw her into a state of extreme panic. The darkness merged with the nightmares of her past. Her voice shook as she called out Liam's name over and over. No one answered. Finally, a bodyguard, annoyed by the noise, snapped from the doorway. Stop shouting. You think you're still the little princess? Your mother already gave the order. You're lucky you're alive. If you can't handle it, you can just die. Just don't show your face in public again. Her voice was a raw rasp. What does that mean? The bodyguard was about to answer when footsteps approached from the hall. Julian Shun's mocking voice echoed in her ear. You're blind, Chloe. For life this time. In your world, you know what that means, don't you? He came closer. Your mother rescued me from that old pervert. She told me to stay here and take good care of you. His voice dripped with venom. After all, you're still her child. She couldn't see the expression on his face, could only feel him move deliberately toward her. He reached out and grabbed her chin, his grip brutally tight, mirroring the way she had once treated him when she learned the truth. Isn't this great, Chloe? Damaged goods like us. We should go to hell together. The only response was her pained, muffled groan. Every year, Leo's son's parents flew to Melbourne to visit, and Leo would always insist Liam join them for family celebrations. Over time, their personalities and values meshed so well that they became like a second family to him. The year Leo's family decided to relocate their entire business and settle permanently in Melbourne, he pestered Liam, asking if he had any plans to stay for good. It was a question Liam had been considering for a long time. The few close friends he had back in the States were all married with their own lives. His parents were long gone, and he was alone, with no property or assets to his name. Looking at his relationships and his career, staying in Australia made the most sense. His work was going better than ever. He had even saved up enough to buy his own place. He'd once considered returning the money Mrs. Jiang had given him, but Leo had stopped him. Are you an idiot? The younger man had said, poking him in the chest. You poured your heart and soul into caring for a blind woman for years. You earned every penny of that. Don't you dare give it back. Liam never brought it up again. Instead, he began preparing his immigration paperwork. The Sun family helped him navigate the complex process, making it much smoother. With sufficient funds and a strong portfolio of his own, he turned down a promotion from his boss and opened his own creative studio. In the following 2 years, the studio grew steadily, becoming a recognized name in the industry. For years after he arrived, Liam met the requirements for immigration and was granted permanent residency. He flew back to the States to finalize some paperwork and met up with his old friends. Years had passed. They were no longer the young men they once were, but when they got together, it felt like no time had passed at all, the easy camaraderie instantly returning. Inevitably, the conversation turned to his love life. Faced with their good-natured prying, Liam was open and candid. I dated someone for a while a couple of years ago, but we broke up due to personality differences. We're still partners on some projects, though. My current girlfriend and I got together at the start of this year. She's 2 years younger than me, a student at the University of Melbourne, but she's very mature. The happiness on his face was radiant as he shared stories of their life together, showing them photos and videos on his phone. Seeing the happy, well-matched couple on the screen, his friends all wore expressions of sincere relief. After chatting for a while longer, someone suddenly brought up Chloe. Hey, did you guys hear? I heard Chloe Jiang is not doing well. Like she's close to the end. Hearing her name, Liam felt a faint tremor in his chest and looked up instinctively. In all these years, he'd been so busy with work and adapting to his new life that he rarely asked about news from home. Leo probably knew things, but out of concern for him, he never brought them up. And though he sometimes reminisced about the past with his friends, that whole period of his life felt shrouded in a fog, the details blurry. The name Chloe Jiang had become like an old, yellowed photograph, tinged with a sense of distant history. He had assumed she would eventually let go of their past, move on, and build a life for herself. He never imagined her fate would be so tragic, that her very life would be in jeopardy. The mood in the room cooled for a moment as his friends carefully watched his reaction. Seeing only shock, not lingering pain, they relaxed and continued the conversation. I heard about it too, Liam once said, but you said you never wanted to hear about her again, so I never mentioned it. It's a pretty sad story after all. Sad story? She brought it on herself, another friend scoffed. The way she treated you for Julian Shun, then had that public meltdown. And then her friend crashed into her, left her permanently blind and basically an invalid. I don't know what Mrs. Jiang was thinking, but she let Julian Shun become her caretaker. From what I hear, he's just been keeping her alive while making her life a living hell. So much time had passed that Liam had almost forgotten the other man's name. Hearing Julian Shun made him pause for a second. He felt a flicker of something, maybe grim irony, at the thought of the two people who had so completely upended his life ending up in such a miserable state. But the feeling was fleeting, gone in an instant. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. It was a call from Leo. "Liam, man, when are you getting back? My mom made that jam you love. I'll bring you a couple of jars when you're here." "I'll be back tomorrow," Liam replied, a smile touching his lips. The past was finally fading. He gazed out the window. The sun was shining brightly, just as it had been on the day he left.